So good afternoon, everybody. And I just would like at this point to thank you for joining us. There are so far 65 of us. And we really want to recognize the efforts of Mrs. James and her team for this wonderful seminar and for all the interventions, the programs that they have been offering to members of the public and, of course, public servants. Today, the Employee Assistance
Recording
unit,
in progress.
Which is under the department, it falls under the Department of the Public Service, is hosting the mental health and psychosocial support services in collaboration, with mental health and psychosocial support services and technical working group, is hosting this webinar that is captioned, Mental Health is a Universal Human Right. At this time, because we want to stick to time, there are persons on our panel who have some very, very important matters to take care of, and so we don't want to dig into their time. So at this time, I want to invite the manager of the EAP, Mrs. Sasha Jean-Pierre James, to just put this webinar into perspective and to, of course, officially welcome you. Over to you, Mrs. James.
Thank you, Ms. Peter. Again, I say thank you to everybody who's logged in. Those of you who have joined in on Zoom and following us via the Government of St. Lucia Facebook page, as well as YouTube. We are so happy that you have taken the time to join us today. Thank you, Madam Moderator. And just to put this webinar into perspective, this is a collaboration with the MHPSS, which is the Mental Health and Psychosocial Support Services Technical Working Group. And for those of you who may not already know, every year, World Mental Health Day is celebrated on October 10th. And the theme for this year is Mental Health is a Universal Human Right. And this theme was set by the World Foundation of Mental Health. World Mental Health Day 2023 and Mental Health Month, by virtue of the entire month of October, this gives us an opportunity for people and communities to unite behind the theme mental health is a universal human right. And it helps us to improve knowledge, raise awareness, and drive actions that promote and protect everyone's mental health as a universal human right. Mental health, as you know, is a basic human right for everyone. And we believe that everyone has a right to the highest attainable standard of mental health. And this is why we are continuing to promote good mental health, to raise awareness. This includes the right to be protected from mental health risks, the right to available, accessible, acceptable, and good quality care, and inclusion in the community. When we speak about mental health being a universal human right, we're speaking to access to the services. We're speaking about inclusion and ensuring that every single person has access to good mental health. Mental health conditions are also affecting an increasing number of adolescents and young people. Having a mental health condition should never be a reason to deprive a person of their human rights or to exclude them from decisions about their own mental health. It is in this regard that we felt it fitting to have the youth and the children represented here today. And you will hear from a young students, primary school and secondary school students. So you will hear from them as it relates to what they believe mental health is and how important it is to include them. We all can play a role in ensuring that mental health support services are accessible for all. And again, I'd like to say thank you for taking the time to join us today. And we are looking forward to an enjoyable, productive discussion on the topic, mental health is a universal human right. If you've not done this yet, invite somebody, ensure that you remind them and let them know that we are here promoting good mental health. So again, I say thank you again to the participants. We'll be sharing their wealth of knowledge with you today. Thank you, and over to you, Madam Moderator.
Thank you, Mrs. James. You gave us a mouthful, and I could tell that you are quite passionate about your work and, of course, about this afternoon's topic. And thank you, of course, for putting it into perspective as you lead us through this afternoon's discussion. Next on the agenda, we have Dr. Swami, and he is a psychiatrist by profession. And Dr. Swami will be coming up next to do a presentation for us. So give him your undivided attention, Dr. Swami. I want to let you know that we have some very interesting prizes. So I encourage you to pay attention to the various presentations. And of course, we have questions and answers. And so you need to pay attention. You need to feel free to put your questions in the chat. And of course, we'll be opening, so you can, allowing you to open your mics, so unmute your mics rather, so you can ask your questions as well. So over to you, Dr. Swami.
Hello, good afternoon. Can you hear me? Can you see me?
Yes, you are being heard. Go ahead.
Okay, good afternoon. Yes, I'm Dr. Swami. First of all, let me express my sincere thanks to all the organizers for inviting me to talk on mental health, specifically about the theme, mental health is a universal human right. So we have been talking about this for the past 26 years. I've been here since 26 years, worked at different hospitals and also at the community level and also private practice. So the mental health, when we talk about the health, is World Health Organization defines health as a complete physical, mental, social, and spiritual well-being, and not merely absence of any diseases. That means it's an important component in our health, mental health part. So we do say that, strong mind in a strong body, or if the body suffers, then the mind suffers. So many sayings are there. That is very much true. So each year we have different themes for this health or mental health. We have different dates. For example, here in St. Lucia, since September, we have been talking about these mental health related topics. September 10th is a World Suicide Prevention Awareness Day. That's September. Whole September we had programs with other schools, and also some students, teachers, counselors came to the auditorium at the Mental Wellness Center. We had programs. Also, many of these television programs about raising the awareness. Understand. Once knowledge is power, we know that we need to know about these different conditions. Once we know, once we understand, once we diagnose, then we manage much better those conditions. So mental health, I'd like to know from other presenters also what is their understanding. But we have the classification of these disorders by International Classification of Disorders, World Health Organization, in American Psychiatric Association, by Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders. These are our broad classifications on mental health conditions and disorders, we call that. And in the past, if there are, like for example, we have now the latest versions of, we call this ICD-10, ICD-11. These are all classifications. systematically classified these disorder. It's more of a description or diagnostic guidelines which we follow based on the presentations. So commonly to understand about this, there are conditions like organic mental disorders, which are more of delirium and different type of dementias, where we can see some changes that can be structural change in the brain or neurotransmitter level or some infections can cause all this behavioral change. So it's important again to know where some of the topics we talk about, like epilepsy, Parkinson's disease, Alzheimer's disease. Okay, these all can cause dementias and deliriums. So we do diagnose based on the presentations. So delirium, to put it simple way, is a confusional state, acute confusional state. People in a confused, and so many causes, factors are there to cause this type of confusion, or that can be seeing things, we call that as a hallucinations, or hearing things. So also can be delusional. Delusional is a false, fixed, unshakable belief systems. The person may believe that somebody is trying to hurt, harm, or kill, or put poison in the food. That may not be true. That's we do that systematic evaluation. Is it a really delusion, or do the person have hallucinations? So those are all established again in delirium or dementia or psychosis. We call this as psychotic conditions. So the next, some other conditions are psychoactive substances. They're all classified under this category. Psychoactive substances are starting with alcohol, which cannot think without having alcohol to any festivals, maybe like a carnival, jazz, or Christmas. But social drinking or maybe acceptable to certain, but some people, it may even small drinks can cause significant reactions. Okay, that can be intoxication, pathological intoxication, harmful use, abuse, can develop dependence for these substances. So I'm just telling about the alcohol, that can also other substances. So and that can also induce seizures, fits like conditions, epileptic attacks along with the substances. Most commonly we say that REM fits, alcohol induced seizures, and these people can also have developed delirium, and if they have been taking more and more, they call intoxication delirium. Or if they suddenly stop taking the alcohol over a period of time for some reasons, then they can have a withdrawal delirium. And then also over a period of time, they can develop psychotic conditions. Psychotic conditions means they can have disorganized behavior, that is abnormal behavior, that is a strange behavior. You can easily make out the behavior is not normal, not appropriate. Such behaviors are seen. So that is about the psychotic conditions can be very delusional. We call this as alcoholic paranoia or alcoholic hallucinosis, like hearing things, seeing things. So, and also polymorphic. So many changes can be there. So it is important again to understand how severe these conditions because of the alcohol. Alcohol can cause other medical conditions from gastritis, gastric ulcer. Yeah, then we have pancreatitis, alcohol-induced acute or chronic pancreatitis, and can also liver and damage the liver. Alcoholic hepatitis, okay, alcoholic other induced delirium and dementias. Dementia, we can be very forgetful, can have a memory loss, may not be able to remember things, and where can be very disoriented, where changes can be there. So this is a psychoactive substance can cause that. And we know that again, people now to legalize or not to legalize, it's legalized now with a lot of debate, discussions, agree, not agree. That's another cannabis, which we say marijuana, weed, grass, so many people name, so many names they call that one. So that is been there for many years. Now, we do see the people with significant problems also with frequent admissions in the hospitals, develop dependence or can cause intoxication, can have disinhibited behaviors, aggressive behaviors, and can be very violent behaviors. We do see for admissions many times the police do bring this type of people to the psychiatric hospital. And then we have so many other repeated doing the crime, which we talk about the crime, violence, and also that can be under confusion or under intoxication, where their judgment, their thinking is affected, their reasoning is affected, and they may end up with the problems which they may not aware of sometimes what they are doing. So that is seen. And even the higher form is cocaine, crack, or the black giant people call, that can also have a serious effect. These are all called psychoactive substances. These are all commonly seen in the hospital here. There are others also like LSD, hallucinogens, or opiums, or IV drugs some people use, or some amphetamines people use. So these are all some of the from the pharmacy they may get, and they get dependence, addiction. So these are all mental and behavioral disorders due to use of psychoactive substances. Then it can easily induce the person to become a psychotic. So those conditions, and also can have other associated conditions also, which I'll just give an overview about. These are some of the conditions. So psychoactive substances are alcohol, even tobacco, caffeine has been included in the psychoactive substance. For some people can develop the dependence with these substances. So commonly used here alcohol, cannabis, cocaine, nicotine, and caffeine. These are all the substances. So the next is we have a psychotic conditions, which we again commonly see in those all in the psychiatric hospitals for admissions or in the clinics. Those psychotic conditions or disorders are schizophrenia. People may aware of it. About 1% of the population, general population, have this schizophrenia conditions with disorganized behavior and disorganized or incoherent, cannot make out what they're talking, or sometimes very strange interactions, and also can have associated hallucinations and delusions. So hallucinations are all false perceptions. Delusions are all the fixed belief systems, or thinking is affected, or reasoning is affected. So these are all thought disorder, thinking process is affected. So that is the schizophrenia. We call this schizophrenia. And with significant impairment in social functioning, means interactions with the family or interaction in the community with other people at workplace, it is affected. So that is the one which we consider as a schizophrenia. And the next form is a schizoaffective disorder. So schizoaffective means schizophrenic symptoms are there. Affective symptoms, affect means the mood is affected, irritable, angry, inappropriate, and labile. These are all the terms we use when we describe about the condition of these people with schizoaffective disorders. And then some people can have only delusional symptoms. That's called delusional disorders. And then we have some induced delusional disorders, can easily induce those delusions in other persons. This is called induced delusional disorders. Sometimes these conditions can be first time when we see out of the blue, suddenly at any age, it can happen. It can happen for anyone, anywhere. So that the age usually even starts early. So we'll not go into all those conditions, but I will explain childhood mental disorders or geriatric, old age related, which are common conditions. So the delusional disorders, induced delusional disorders, and next one I was talking about acute and transient psychotic disorders. Acute means short duration, within 1 day or 1 week, they will have the sudden symptoms started. Again, many reasons. We do some test investigation to find out what is the cause, why it is. And again, the long list is there, which I'd like to we can discuss later about that. And so then we need to exclude what is the reason, what caused, what stressors, any medical conditions, or neurological conditions, any infections, or any substance use. Cause these substances I mentioned already, psychoactive substances like alcohol, cannabis, cocaine, any of these most commonly used these substances. So that is the acute and transient psychotic disorders we describe again further classified whether what type of form. So thus broad classification: schizophrenia, schizoaffective disorders, and acute and transient psychotic disorders. The next broad classification we talk about is the mood. How the person, that's again common, which we discuss more, the mood disorders, mainly depression, depressive disorders, manic episodes, bipolar affective disorders, recurrent depressive disorders, or can say that can be, is it clear? Can you all understand?
Okay, so Dr. Swami, I guess, is looking for an exchange from us. Yes, Dr. Swami?
I just want to know, is it clear? You understand? You do follow me?
Of course we are. Yes, we are.
Okay.
Yes, we are, Dr. Swami.
Okay, then. So
we have I think at least one question already for you. So go ahead, and afterwards we are going to field the questions from. Yeah. Yes.
Good.
All right. So thank you so much. You may go ahead.
Okay, sure. I'll go to the overview about how this classification of these mental disorders classified. So under that mood disorders, we call this as a manic episode, mania, hypomania. Hypomania may be lesser form of the mania. Manic is when people, some of them we do see when they're very, very hyper, increase the very disinhibited behavior, and can have a big plans, grandiose things, talk about that everything belongs to me, or I am the king. In reality, he may not be the king. And she said he is the president. In reality, he is not the president, or she is the queen. Those type of things we do see, some of them suddenly. And then if you challenge, they can be very irritable, can be aggressive. So we need to understand. But the most important thing is these conditions are very much treatable conditions. So that at the manic phase, it really needs that type of people most of the time needs admission for the short duration to treat that condition. That can again happens at any place, at workplace, at home, that we do come across people have that type of behaviors. And hypomania is a lesser form. Most times can treat with the medications, or sometimes and they may function well, but very easily switch over from hypomania to mania. So again, our classification, bipolar 1, bipolar 2, all this we do classify for our diagnosis, for the prognosis, for the treatment purpose. So bipolar affective disorders, it's an episodic. It happens like sometimes manic, sometimes can be hypomanic, or sometimes can be depressed or mixed. It can happen for these episodes for a few weeks, even for few months. Sometimes it can be longer time also, longer time. So those are all considered as the bipolar, which again classification, clear guidelines are there, diagnostic guidelines are there, so which we do that. But it is important, there are different type of conditions which when you come to the professional, they're able to diagnose these conditions. So the next is the depression, which we always talk about it, which is very much most people for different reasons, multiple factors involved to feel depressed. We just cannot say that the term is depressed, sometimes may use, but most people feel sad, low, crying, and these are the other times I feel a low, sad mood. These conditions is mainly the person can feel low because of that, the depressed mood, and no interest to do any activities, and not feeling doing any activities, don't want to go to work, or don't want to do anything, cooking or anything like this Creole time. People just feel like locking himself or herself and don't want to go out, don't want to associate with that. Thus are all the, some of the depressive features: helpless, worthless, and they feel that useless, and then the guilt feelings. Then there can be also aches and pains, headaches, not sleeping, not feel like eating, and not doing any other work, and negative and then can have this suicidal thoughts, which we talk about most times. It is preventable, treatable conditions. If we get these warning signs, ideas, when the person expresses those suicidal ideas, thoughts about hurting or attempts, and those all will take it as professionals seriously to how best we can help this type of people. That is the depression is further we classify into, is it a mild form, moderate form, which most times just for therapy or simple, okay, so the medication and the therapy, we call this as a different type of therapy or counseling, okay, supportive therapy or counseling, so that we do that. And medications also we treat. But if there is a high suicidal ideas or suicidal attempts, suicidal risk, this patient may need very closed observation, crisis intervention, may need admission sometimes. And if there is the good family support, good social support, good understanding, then we do treat them on an outpatient basis, depending on the severity. This depression can also be associated with the psychotic features. Psychotic means can be extremely getting the voices, telling the person to kill yourself, hurt yourself, or end yourself, this type of commanding hallucinations. These are psychotic features. And then also can be delusional, that they may have everything, food and everything. The person may feel that there is nothing available, there is no food, and this is what we call the nihilistic delusions, thinking negatively, negative view about self, negative view about others, negative view about the future. So there is a surroundings and future, everything thinking about in a negative way. Negatives. That is the more severe form of the depression. We saw severe depression or major depression, and that can be associated with mild and moderate depression, can be associated with somatic symptoms. So most people, culturally, it's accepted that aches, pains, tiredness, weakness, back pain, headaches, they're like the vague symptoms. And they may not come forward saying that I am depressed, because they say, now what you are talking about, to understand what is that mental health as a human right we talk about, to stop that type of that stigma and discrimination when we talk this is what we need to understand. Once we understand this, anyone can go through this type of this depression, but we need to understand that. So that way the person can be very depressed, that person can have a stigma about that, to not to talk about it, not come forward to take a help. So that many times we do see this, to come and talk to the professionals that way. So we need to understand. So this depression can be very repetitive. The repetitive can come in again and again. So at least 2-3 episodes. I mean, say, each episode means it can last for few months, 1 month to 3 months. Okay, then at least 2 weeks duration should be there to call as a person as a depressed. If he has to call depression, minimum 2 weeks duration of the symptoms, and sometimes it can continue for months and months. And many times with treatment, they do respond well. And so that, and then again, they may stop the medications. Then after maybe 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, another depression like the same happens. Then we call this as a recurrent depressive disorder. It comes episodes. It can be again next time. It can be again, may not respond to the same medications. We may have to treat with the higher dose, higher medication. So that is recurrent depressive disorder. So like that depression, and then we have to, the depression can last longer. That's the dysthymia. We'll be feeling sad all the time for more than 2 years. Okay, continuously sad, dysthymia. Can have cyclothymia, that's mood swings. We call this a mood swings. Feel happy, then feel sad, and then little high, and then again sad. You can rapid cycling affective disorders, seasonal affective disorders, postpartum depression. These are the terms we use depending on the presentation. Premenstrual dysphoric disorder. before menses, some people do feel very change in a mood. That is a pre-menstrual, just 1 week before, very low mood, very irritable, with simple, okay, very easily crying, sad. Those are all pre-menstrual dysphoric disorder. So that's why we need to take the history, collecting the information from the person or possible from the family or the other people. And mild cases, they may come on their own, they take help, they do well. So it is necessary again to understand the symptoms, and then presentation and proper diagnosis is necessary. So these are all about the mood disorders. Next, most common again conditions here, anxiety related disorders, stress disorders, acute stress reaction, significant stress can cause the acute stress reaction, or post traumatic stress disorder, we call it PTSD, anything, okay, some natural disasters, so wars, okay, witnessing or seeing repeatedly or experiencing of this called post-traumatic stress disorder, constantly living in the flashbacks, ruminations, thinking about again, sleep affected, high anxiety, fears, and depression, crying, and no interest to do anything. This is okay after the significant life-threatening stress. So it is post-traumatic stress disorders. And people can have phobias, phobic disorders, phobic anxiety disorders, generalized anxiety disorders, panic disorders, or obsessive compulsive disorders. Repeated ruminations can be there, and somatization disorders. That's all after stress related disorders, phobias, and also the obsessive compulsive disorders. So we after the stress and anxiety, sleep disorders, hypersomnia, insomnia, eating disorders, anorexia, bulimia nervosa, obesity, also the other eating disorders. We have sexual dysfunctions, which people may not come forward and talk about it also, like premature ejaculation, men, the female also experience some the discomfort, dyspareunia, so many other conditions are there. So those are all some of the sexual dysfunctions and also different stages which are classified under mental and behavioral disorders under the psychiatry. So why I'm saying all this? These are all people because of some psychotic conditions for a small percentage, 1% or 2%, and more than 90% of the conditions can be treatable, can be manageable, and because of the stigma, many not people come forward and talk about these problems, like depression, anxiety, other sleep-related disorders may not. And personality disorders also, different type of personalities, paranoid, schizoid, schizotypal, antisocial, histrionic. So the list goes on. We have clusters. And then childhood mental disorders, which attention deficit hyperactivity disorders, or intellectual developmental disorders, or neurodevelopmental disorders, are all broadly classified. So now I think I can go on and on. I don't want to go, but I like to happy to hear from others. So that's World Mental Health Day, as we said, September, October, even we can have next month we have doctors. CME is also there, and psychiatric topics are there. So we do attend, and this has been discussed about how it is. People raise the awareness about it. So what it is, the theme. So mental health is a universal human right. Everyone, whoever and wherever they are, has a right to the highest attainable standard of mental health. The right to available, accessible, acceptable, and good quality care. They have the right to liberty, independence, and inclusion in the community. Good mental health is very vital to our overall health and well-being, and it has been globally recognized. People do have this type of mental health conditions, but these are all can be treatable. Many times we are here in St. Lucia and around the globe, including World Health Organization, continues to work to ensure mental health is valued, promoted, and protected, and action is taken to exercise their human rights. So this I like to go, and then definitely I'll be happy to answer any questions. And thanks again for inviting me for this important seminar at the end of this October. Thanks again. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Swami. And sometimes when you hear such presentations, sometimes you can't always understand the jargon, the medical jargon, but you've made it so simple for us, for all of us to understand. And we have a few young participants, and I'm sure even they too were able to understand because you put it so simple for all of us. I'm sure from today, from Dr. Swami's presentation, all of us have a better understanding of what mental illness is all about, of the signs and the symptoms, what to look for. And in our local settings in Lucia, we have all sorts of myths and all kind of things. And, we want to ascribe particular behavior to particular things, understanding, that it is really mental health. And so there was a hand up that has been up for the longest while. I think it's Tiffany. Your name has your hand, sorry, Tifari James. Your hand has been up for the longest while. Do you have a question for Dr. Swami? Okay, so if you perhaps you made an error by putting your hand up, could you just take the hand down? And we are taking questions for Dr. Swami. He is unable to remain with us for the remainder of the webinar. So anybody with questions, or there was one in the chat, and the person is asking Dr. Swami, one of our participants is asking, what are the signs of mental illness in a child age 5 to 10?
Okay, so that's again the child and adolescent psychiatry. The psychiatrists can be able to do in detailed evaluation, because early recognition and child and adolescent mental health assessment starts. Okay, early we get changes can be there 5 to 10. Most common, we can be able to make out whether is there any intellectual developmental disorder, or attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, or autism spectrum disorder, or communication disorders, or some tics and mannerisms changes are there. But that's some of them we do assess, but most of the time we may not give any medication tablets unless if it is really indicated. But some of this important, again, for example, what is normal at the age of 5 can be it may not be normal at the age of 15 years. For example, passing urine around the age of, in the bed, in the night, passing urine is considered normal around the age of 3, 4, 5 years. But if that continues at the age of 15 years, that is not normal. So many things we do observe, but we do educate, we can train them, and then that can be fear. Phobias is again among common. Anxiety disorders, separation anxiety disorders, common around that age. If they are taken away from the one, mainly the parents or the guardians or the grandparents, then can have a high anxiety, and that can also fears, because these phobias are all can be easily recognizable. And then simple techniques can make a big difference, and then with more treatment or therapy with the parents, though we do that one. That's a very good question. Thank you.
Okay, so the questions are coming in. We'll try to do this quickly. Someone is asking, can you provide information on the list of services available on a community level when it relates to mental illness? And maybe you could take the other one right away. Can one recover fully from mental health issues?
Yeah, again, there are community psychiatric, the team, community psychiatric mental health team work at different health centers. And then that can be, the health center, they can check. We have a team go there around. But now I'm basically based at the hospitals, and then if necessary privately. But these services are there. And the second thing, you asked recovery. Many times, most times, like anxiety, phobias, obsessive compulsive disorders, we can completely treatable. It's like simple, same way. Whether diabetes is curable, whether hypertension is curable, we do ask. They do take their medications. First, basic of food, diet, exercise, sleep regularly. These are healthy habits: exercise, food, activities, and stress management, coping skills, relaxation techniques. So which we all know that when some therapy, many people use different type of therapy. So the sports, activity, healthy habits. So that along with that one, some medications do not to be affect significant improvement, 90, 100%. They may not get another episode. Even among schizophrenia, one third of the patients may not get another episode. They may do very well, and someone another one third may have recurrent episodes. But then about one third of the patients can be very resistant, very difficult, very challenging, can be very unmanageable at times. So it's the percentage, and there are good prognostic factors. We recognize some of them: good family support, willingness to take treatment, and understand the reasoning, judgment, intelligence, awareness, education, and then also genetically whether it's a strong family history. This is what we again check and find out whether that can be treatable. So many factors are there. Yes, many times can be very much treatable and effectively.
Okay, we have one more question on the chat before we go on to our giveaway question. What is the treatment for premenstrual dysphoric disorder?
Yes. So this has been actually, now I mentioned World Health Organization ICD-10 didn't mention about this premenstrual dysphoric disorder, but this has been clearly mentioned now. The new classification in American Psychiatric Association Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of latest version 5th. There are symptoms. The presentation usually just before 1 week before the menses. During that, person may feel very can be no interest, typical depressive features, irritable, angry, cannot sleep, or bloating sensation, and easily crying, and interpersonal relationship change. Those are other changes. That can be again mild, moderate. Previously, people used to call PMS, premenstrual syndrome, or like that. That has been changed to a dysphoric disorder, premenstrual dysphoric disorder, PMDD. So that condition can be effectively treated with the therapy or some of those medications. We call this as specific serotonin reuptake inhibitors. We call this as serotonin. That's like medications commonly used. Some of the groups which are there, like we can select depending on the condition severity. We have paroxetine, fluoxetine, sertraline, citalopram. Also, these are the lowest to effective dose. And or we have SNRI, specific serotonin norepinephrine reuptake inhibitors called venlafaxine or duloxetine, some of these medications. Only medications, again, is an option. First thing, let us see whether we can manage or we can talk about it. The therapy, supportive therapy can maybe can be stress management, coping skills, relaxation, whether that can help. If that is not helpful, then we can think about medication after proper discussion, educating, and then proper diagnosis.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Swami. I know that there's so much more that you would have wanted to share with us this afternoon, but time does not permit, and I'm sure Mrs. James will be continuing this webinar again. We want to thank you so much for your time this afternoon with us.
Thank
perhaps, you. Is there anything, final words that you want to leave with us?
Oh, thank you. I'm very happy that, so like this organized by this EAP program. That's a nice. Hopefully it will continue and you'll give the priority on mental health, and we'll always be happy to discuss further, or if there is any program in meet as a group, we can be very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Before we move on to our next agenda item, we have our first giveaway. So the first person to write the answer in the chat is the winner. And Mrs. James, I want you to man the chat for me, please. Who is our first person? Okay, so here's the question. Name one disorder mentioned by Dr. Swami. Name one disorder, a mental disorder mentioned by Dr. Do we have a winner? Okay, who was the first person? Let me see. Ms. James, you are the judge, right?
Yes, please. And that would be Junior DeLeese. He was the first person.
Okay, Junior DeLeese, and he said depression. Very good. So, okay, you're the winner, Junior, and you might be wondering, what is it that you have won? You have won one voucher, a $50 voucher, compliment Salt gas station. All right? Okay, so Mrs. Jim, to tell you how to collect your prize, contact the EAP unit at 468-2268. Is that right? 68 or 65?
468-2260 or 468-2269.
Okay. So you got that 468-2260 or 468-2269. Okay, Junior, please contact the EAP unit on how you can collect your prize. So now on to our next agenda item. We have a very young participant who will now speak with us. So let's just give him our undivided attention, and he will speak on mental illness from the perspective of a child. Do we have him on? Yes, he's on already. Okay. And his name is Malachi Bordiemet. Malachi Bordiemet. I like your surname, Malachi Bordiemet. And he's going to speak to us. And let me tell you a little about him. He's actually a student of the Saltibus Combined School. And he is the Unicoma Courts OECS Reading Competition winner. Congratulations, Malachi. So we're all ready to hear you. You're speaking to us on the topic of mental illness from a child's perspective. So you can unmute your mic, Malachi. You are still muted. Please unmute your mic. You are still muted. You can't unmute. Mrs. James, can you assist him, please? Okay, I think you're there now. All right. You may go ahead, Malachi.
Good afternoon. I am Malachi Bordiemet, a student from the Saltibus RC Combined School. Today I'll be speaking about mental health. What does it mean to have good mental health? Mental health really means the state of your emotional well-being, which affects how you think, feel, and behave. Having good mental health means more than just not having a mental health disorder. It means that with the ups and downs of life. Mental health is just as important as physical health for living a happy, healthy, and well-rounded life. The World Health Organization, WHO, defines good mental health as allowing someone to realize their abilities, cope with the normal stresses of life, work productively, make a contribution to the community. Having good mental health is vital for both individuals and communities to thrive. This is because it allows us to connect with ourselves and others, earn a living, and enjoy life. There are a lot of things that can affect our mental health, but one of the main things is stress. This stress can be caused by many things, such as our jobs, relationships, physical health, and perceptions of ourselves. Here are some ways you can support your children's mental health in the classroom. Create a safe space in the classroom. People's environments can have a huge impact on their mental health. If they are in a space that makes them feel uncomfortable or unsafe, their mental health is almost guaranteed to suffer. One super effective way that you can support your children's mental health in school is to make sure your classroom is a safe space. Watch out for signs that your students may be struggling. Teach your students the importance of looking after their mental health. Make sure you equip to deal with a child who is struggling with their mental health. Adults, look after your mental health as well. Looking after other people is really important, but you can't forget about yourself in the process. If you have a positive, healthy mental state, it will be much easier for you to provide support to those around you. Feeling mentally well will allow you to better engage with your students and deal with the various stresses that are often unavoidable for teachers. What are the characteristics of good mental well-being? It's important to clarify that good mental well-being does not mean the absence of negative thoughts and emotions. Feelings like anger, sadness, being overwhelmed, and a range of other emotions may all still arise, but good mental well-being means you're able to understand and deal with the feelings. Having good mental well-being means you have confidence in yourself, build or maintain positive relationships with others, have a sense of meaning and purpose, live and work productively, manage the stresses of daily life, cope with change, supporting your self-esteem and confidence. What can affect mental well-being? Mental well-being is often impacted by events that are out of control, for example, loss, trauma, social disadvantages, health conditions, stress, discrimination. How we respond to such events can affect our mental well-being. Our habits may not be conducive to good mental well-being. For example, withdrawing instead of seeking support and fearing the worst, rather than remaining open to different possibilities, can both have a negative impact on well-being. Developing good habits will improve mental well-being so that we are better prepared to face challenges when they arise. How can you improve mental well-being? Connect with other people. Relationships with others impact on our mental well-being. They can contribute to feeling of self-worth, provide emotional support, and allow us to share positive experiences with others. To build stronger relationships, try and take time out of your day to be with friends and family. Interactions on social media cannot really act as a substitute for meaningful relationships. So try and get into the habit of meeting friends in person if it's safe to do so. Exercise. Being physically active improves mental well-being by increasing self-esteem, helping you to achieve goals, and making chemical changes in the brain which promote good mood. Finding a way to be active with friends is a good way to improve mental well-being. Learn a new skill. Learning something new also raises self-esteem by promoting a sense of purpose. Think of different hobbies you'd like to try and use online resources to support you. Don't put any pressure on yourself to be good at the activity, and make sure it's something you enjoy. Be kind and give to others. Kindness creates positive feelings and helps you connect with other people. Even small acts of kindness, like spending time with people who need company and offering to help others, can improve mental well-being. Be present in the moment, mindfulness. Paying attention to the present moment makes life richer and more exciting. Plus, with your mind less likely to wander towards negative thoughts, it will improve your mental well-being and help you understand yourself better. What is emotional well-being? Emotional well-being refers to a person's emotional experience. It concerns how we think, feel, and relate to ourselves and others. People who are emotionally healthy can manage their own thoughts, feelings, and behaviors, keeping problems in perspective and coping with challenges. Emotional well-being doesn't mean a person is happy all the time, but rather they're aware of their emotions and can manage negative feelings. Tips to improve emotional well-being. Try and be aware of your emotions and reactions. Try and be aware of your emotions and reactions. Express feelings in appropriate ways rather than holding onto them or reacting angrily. Give yourself time to think before acting. Use techniques like breathing and meditating to manage stress. Focus on the positive things in your life and don't push yourself too hard. Exercise regularly and look after your physical health. Connect with others. What are the benefits of positive mental health? By having positive mental health, you can lead a much happier life by being more productive and more positive towards yourself and others, and enjoy increased levels of motivation for doing whatever it is that you love to do. Thank you.
Wow, wow, wow. Thank you, Malachi. And I see another Dr. Swami in the making. You are so eloquent, so articulate. Wow. And I'm sure our participants, our Zoomers, I want to call them, and those our YouTubers, and I understand we might be on Facebook as well. I'm sure you were quite impressed with the presentation here by little Malachi. He may not be able to answer your questions from a technical perspective, but perhaps we can, encourage him by writing your comments in the chat. Thank you so much, Malachi. Thank you. Mrs. James, I suspect you want to say something to Malachi?
I would just like to say thank you, Malachi. I was here smiling and giving you the thumbs up. And it is no wonder, Julita, that he is a Unicoma Courts OECS reading competition winner. So awesome job. I am so proud of you.
Yes. And, he said one thing several things stood out for me, but one of them that really stood out for me, Malachi, was when you said you have to look out for others. And more importantly, you said we need to see about ourselves, self-care. And I know that Mrs. James is very big on self-care, and so often we forget ourselves. In the efforts, in the haste of taking care of others, we tend to neglect ourselves at the expense of taking care of other people. But Malika reminded us this afternoon that self-care is very important. We cannot afford to neglect that very important aspect. Self-care. Thank you so much, Malachi. And we have some comments in the chat. We have the participants cheering you on. We have comments like good job, wonderful job, great, quite articulate, so we have awesome, very, very eloquent, continue striving, well done, and several other comments, Malachi. So you have done very, very well this afternoon, and I look forward to hearing from you again. Yes, you'll come again. All right. Okay. At this time, we want to turn our attention over to, we have, in place of, is it Chance Riviere? You would have seen that. But we have another person substituting for him, and that is Daya Ajuda, and he will be doing it in the testimonial. Yes, Daya Ajuda. Okay, are you already speaking? Because I can't. Hi, Daya. Hello. All right. So we now we'll now hear from Daya Ajuda with a testimonial.
You can go ahead and unmute yourself, Daya.
Unmute yourself, please. I could see your mouth moving, but we can't hear. So it means that you are still muted. We still can't hear you. If you can you hear me? Just respond in the chat if you can hear me, because we can't hear you. Okay. Let me see. Do we still have him here?
I think we must have lost him, Julita. Okay, he's back.
He's back. Okay, can you unmute, please, Dea? Is it the case where he can't unmute himself? Mrs. James, can you do that?
He actually has to unmute himself after I give the prompt. So after I've given you the prompt, Daya, go ahead and unmute yourself.
I could still see his mic is muted. I could still see that.
I'm not sure what is.
What might be the problem?
So maybe we can do another giveaway whilst we try to rectify it.
Okay. Okay. I could still see. All right. So let's do another giveaway. Let's see who will be the lucky person right now. Okay. So here's the next question. What department does the EAP, Employee Assistance Program, fall under? What? Okay. Oh my. Mr. James, were you monitoring the chat? Okay.
Just a moment. I believe I saw MOH, but this is the wrong answer. Oh.
At 306.
Rohan Francis.
Rohan Francis at 306, public service. You think we should give it to him? We just said public service. You think we should give it?
We need the correct department.
Okay. Let me see. All right, we're looking for. All right, I think we have 307, Alexander, Department of the Public Service. We'll give that. Mrs. James, are you there? Okay.
Yes, okay. We can.
Yes, Alexander, Department of the Public Service. Yes, drum roll. Okay, before we go on to say what the prize is, I think Dea was saying that he is not allowed to unmute. So can we get a...
now?
Okay, so we can... Dea, are you there? Is he there?
Daya, you can go ahead.
All right, so let us say, before he goes ahead, let's say what the prize is. Alexander might be wondering, what have I won? Okay, all right, Alexander, you've given free renewal of license for a nurse or nursing attendant valued at $120. And that prize complements the General Nursing Council. So that prize was sponsored by the General Nursing Council. So Alexander, you've won yourself a renewal of license for a nurse or nursing attendant valued at $120. So if you're not a nurse, Alexander, or you're not a nursing attendant, just be generous, and you can, donate that prize to a nurse or nursing attendant. Yeah. And like I said earlier, you can call the EAP unit on how you can collect that prize. All right, so let's go ahead. Let's move on. And now we have Dea, who is ready to speak with us. Go ahead.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Loud and clear. Go ahead.
All right. Here we go. Positive mental health is easily one of the most important aspects for the minds of young and aspiring individuals. It enables us to do things with vigor and triumph over challenges. As we can see all around us, however, people suffer from negative mindsets or are unable to develop positive ones. At some point, all of us may be led astray to fall victim to these negative states of mind. This results in the opposite of the previously mentioned benefits of a positive state of mind. This is why I believe one of the most important things we can do in life is realign ourselves on the track of positivity and stability. So today, I wanted to share with you my thesis on how I believe we can put ourselves back on this track and stay on it. Often we are told delusion is negative, something that severs our existence from the rest of the world, enabling us to exist in a false reality. I argue, however, that there is much positivity that can be derived from delusion. Our species is one of imagination, striving to do the impossible. From boats to planes to spaceships, we continually aim for higher impossibles. It goes to say that one can achieve this in one's own life and mind. Believe things will get better to make things get better. As you continue to persevere, you should set your mind to something and strive for it. From this, you wish to develop drive, something to push you on this road we call life. In this pursuit to become something more, things around you will follow suit, including yourself. As you continue to build yourself, you must identify a strong blueprint for the best construction of your being. Find a role model whose aspirations coincide with yours and also has a strong moral character. Bob the Builder to Jesus Christ. Any individual who pushes you to become the highest and goodest version of yourself ought to suffice. This will be to the benefit of all around you and ultimately only doing good for your psyche. Before things get too esoteric, however, we must double down on the very thing that our mind and actions confide in. Caring for one's body is an extremely important step in the development and preservation of one's mental health. This especially applies to young people who are filled with hormones, challenges, and new experiences. Having an adequate body to navigate the world and moderate one's emotions will prove extremely valuable in the development of a positive, young, and aspiring mind. Now, validation is single-handedly the most important aspect in human social structure. I'd like to believe this is true. It proves and provides us with a purpose, a function, a reason to exist. Something that is so fundamentally part of our collective experience must be understood if we wish to live positively and fully. The development of social bonds, of very strong social bonds with those who can provide you with validation is immense to the benefit of a positive mindset. Also, you should be grateful to them as well because for the extra goodness, it'll make you feel better if you're grateful. Right. However, what triumphs above all for the fortification of a mind is love and respect for one's self. If you yourself are enough justification for your existence, you will never be found wanting. If you do, everything stated before will pale in comparison to self-love. If you can love yourself, you will not need anything else in the world. And that is my thesis on how to live a happy life and have a positive mindset.
Wow, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dea. And from the presentations this afternoon from our student presenters, I think we can confidently say that we are in a good place where mental health is concerned. And if we have those young people so au fait with the information about mental illness and mental health, I think it will do us good in St. Lucia. And I think we are getting there, we will get there, and we have hope that our people in time to come, will be a kind of people who would say, well, we have those issues, yes, but we have the answers. We have the solution. The problems might be there, but we have the solutions. And very soon, we have a lot more people who would be interested in studying mental wellness and to educate our people on how to get there. At this time, we want to call on our next presenter who is already waiting. I hope you can unmute yourself this time. Are you there? Yeah, and that is Samantha Joseph, who is also an author.
Hello.
So we go over to Samantha. Yes, I can hear you loud and clear. And now she will do for us a testimonial. But let me make an apology. I think for Dea, I did say it was an apology. Sorry, I did say it was a testimonial, and I want to apologize. He did mental wellness from a youth perspective. And so we want to move over to Samantha, who will do for us a testimonial. Let us give her our undivided attention. It's not easy when we could come before people that we don't know and speak about ourselves, about a subject that is still taboo in St. Lucia. So over to you, Samantha.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am uber gratified to be in such an enlightening forum this afternoon, because I believe there is something very powerful when one opts to become vulnerable and transparent, to share their weaknesses. You know, to share your weakness is to make yourself vulnerable, and to make yourself vulnerable is to show your strengths. Healing takes place when courage is expressed. Don't ever believe that you are weak because you are experiencing a challenging time in your life. No life is free from crisis. Therefore, do not feel like you are less than because of your challenges. Shame dies when stories are told in safe places. A year and a half ago, I had a brush with anxiety and depression. Although it was, for me, a really brief experience, it was too long. Upon receiving a grave diagnosis as it relates to my mom's health and me being her sole caretaker, I had an encounter with anxiety. Heart palpitations, insomnia, feeling nervous, having a sense of impending danger every single day. Panic and doom. But with all those physical reactions that I felt, one of the emotions that really stood out more than anything else was I felt really embarrassed and ashamed. I felt like I had lost my identity, because if you were to ask most persons to describe me, the words positive and strong would be on top of the list. However, I felt weak, low, and every single second was a struggle. Months into trying to figure out what was wrong with me, I experienced another traumatic event, which sent me further downhill, and experienced depression. So in addition to me figuring out anxiety, I am now experiencing depression and anxiety the same, which I thought I was going to die literally on certain days. There were days I even wanted to die. I wanted to throw in the towel because I could not understand why I was feeling so bad. I thought I was going crazy. No one understood the severity of what I was going through. There were times I literally had to park my car because waiting in traffic would just really trigger me. And I thought walking, I would get to my home quicker than just waiting in traffic. You know, my heart would beat so fast and my throat would get so dry. It was like I was a few seconds away from death every single day. I began to feel hopeless, like I was in a very dark place with no light in sight. There were days I had a paralyzing fear of going outside. Just outside, I would just be crippled because I couldn't face outside. The days were long and they were heavy. You know, I long to have a quick fix, but I realize most often it's not like that. It's usually a long, slow, uphill battle, you know, and I don't think I had the patience, because all I know, I wanted to get well. I didn't know where to find help without being recognized, because I was afraid of being judged, knowing that the stigma that is attached to such mental health issues, one which meant institutionalization, and someone probably in our local language parlance, we would hear persons offering us coconuts. And by the way, persons make fun and say things like, if you go to the, you know, wellness center, I will bring you coconuts. Coconuts actually is a very good cognitive health food. It's good for your health. So there is no downplay on that. This condition controlled my very thought, every single action, every thought, causing me to experience physical pain and intrusive thoughts. Depression is an invisible illness. One can mask it so well. The many times I had to utter, "I am fine," when I was slowly dying inside, was just my everyday life, everyday living. No one heard the unspoken words. No one understood what I was going through, even when I had the courage to say, "I am not okay." I was even labeled victim, weak, or persons who just tell me, "Get over it," you know? And people, I am most people go to. People come to tell me everything, and persons were reaching out to me to solve their problems when they did not even realize that I needed help, because I was relentless in trying to keep my identity as positive and strong. Actually began for me when I realized I also remind myself that I'm okay and to take it one day at a time. I try to focus on the now, on the present, in the moment, rather than what's going to happen later. However, one of the most beautiful things, because I always like, if there's a problem, there's also a solution. There's always something that happens. Beautiful things happen in the midst of chaos. So one of the most beautiful things that happened from the pit of my struggle was that I became more compassionate and sensitive to others. And so many persons have reached out to me, telling me their stories, and I've bravely enough, because they know I understand. I have made it my mission to reach as many people as possible who are struggling with anxiety and depression, and hopefully inspire them with my own experiences, my journey. A few months ago, I could not walk without having a panic attack. I'm a hiker, and I remember one particular hike, I almost thought I would die because all I saw was danger, and nobody around me could tell what was really going on with me, and I could not explain. Today, I can be part of something powerful such as this to bring awareness and shut down shame. I never thought I would be comfortable enough to do that. Realizing my struggle has not been in vain, that I can share, that I can motivate others and inspire them. In closing, I want to take some time to encourage someone who is battling with anxiety and depression, or both, or any form of mental issues, that you are not alone. One of the most pronounced things I realized was that people could not connect with me. They did not know what to say to me. So this prompted me to write my second book titled Hey You, which is a book basically, if no one can speak life into your life whilst you are going through that, you can encourage yourself with a few quotes and phrases. And if it's for persons, you don't know what to really tell them, because it's kind of difficult to reach out when you do not understand. So telling somebody to get over it may seem to be the easiest thing to tell them or the easiest thing to do, but they really can't. So this book will enable persons to know what to say, how to say it. I am thankful that I made a comeback. It wasn't easy, so I know it isn't easy for you who are going through. Be gentle with yourself. You're doing the best you can. It won't always feel like this. Trust the process. It takes courage to show up the way you are showing up today. And your depression and anxiety do not define you. There is hope even when it doesn't feel this way. You were enough yesterday. You are enough today. You will be enough tomorrow. There is a path to recovery, and you too can overcome your anxieties and depression and live a fulfilling life. Also, I would like to guide those who are not going through depression and anxiety, but know someone who is, to be mindful of what you say and how to say it. The best way to respond to an individual who is struggling with depression and anxiety is with support. Be kind on purpose. Help is always available. Remember, you are never alone. because our problems are not uncommon. They are just stories unspoken. Thank you.
Wow. Well, thank you, Samantha. Thank you for sharing with us. Thank you for your courage. And there's a quote I would like to take with me, and you said, healing takes place when courage is expressed. When courage is expressed. And secondly, you said shame dies when stories are told in a safe place. Thank you so much. You started by saying that your depression emanated when you were taking care of your mom, and that brought me back to something that Malachi said about self-care. Self-care. Thank you so much, Samantha. I've asked the participants to, place something in the chat, a question or word of encouragement. And just to encourage you, Samantha, I would like to read some of the comments here. Some person said, thank you for your courage. Great job, my friend. Thanks for sharing your experience. Where is the book being sold? God bless you on your journey. And these are some of the sentiment and the encouragement coming from our participants this afternoon. So Samantha, perhaps you could tell us, let us know where we could find copies of that book.
Okay, thank you. Books are being sold currently at M&C Drugstore, both on Bridge Street and the Baywalk Mall. And you can get it directly from me.
You want to leave a contact number?
730-8098.
Okay, so please just repeat for persons who might want to take it down.
730-8098.
Okay. Thank you so much, Samantha. I just want to encourage you to keep on keeping on.
Thank you.
On positive. And of course, you will get exactly where you are headed. Yes? And
thank you.
Inspire and encourage others with your testimony, with your story. After all, it's your personal testimony. So you feel it, you know it. It's personal, it is intimate to you. Okay?
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. And we are getting ready to wind down. It's 3:27. We have our last presenter. After our last presenter, we have our final giveaway. And at this moment, we want to call on Dr. Cashel DeTurville, who is a medical intern, and she will be sharing her perspective with us. So let us give her our undivided attention, and this will be our last presentation for this afternoon. Thank you, Dr. Cashel DeTurville. Thanks for joining us. You may unmute yourself. Can you do that? Sure, I think you are there now. Okay. You may go ahead. Thank you so much.
Okay. Good afternoon to all. I am Cashel DeTurville, a medical intern at St. Jude Hospital. Today, I want to speak on the importance of caring for one's mental health and how mental health and physical health are related. So just to start off, according to the World Health Organization, mental health is a state of mental well-being that enables people to cope with stresses of life, realize their abilities, learn well and work well, and contribute to the community. Physical health can be defined as a state of well-being when all internal and external body parts, organs, tissues, and cells can function properly as they are supposed to function. The brain, an integral organ in the body, plays an important role in both mental health and physical health. Therefore, mental and physical health are very closely related. Poor mental health can affect your physical health negatively, while good mental health has a positive impact on your physical health. Therefore, if you make the habit of caring for your mental health, you will also be positively impacting your physical health and overall well-being. So why is it therefore important to care for one's mental health? Mental health is an integral part of the life of every individual. It includes social, psychological, and emotional well-being. Mental health can affect how a person relates to others, how they make choices, and how they act, think, and feel. It therefore impacts our thoughts, behaviors, and emotions. When we care for our mental health, we promote a healthy emotional state, which can therefore boost productivity, and effectiveness in activities like work, school, or even in caregiving. Self-care practices, they play a pivotal role in maintaining mental health and in supporting a person's recovery and treatment if they are currently struggling with mental illness or any ongoing stress, anxiety, or difficult situations. Having good mental health also is an important aspect in the health of our relationships, whether it be between family members, friends, co-workers, or schoolmates and partners, or even with ourselves. Good, healthy relationships then positively affects other areas of our lives. Good mental health also allows you to adapt to changes in your life and cope with adversity. When you're mentally healthy, you become more resilient and less perturbed by trying circumstances. Caring for your mental health helps you to look at the world through brighter lens, that is, with a more positive mindset. I can definitely attest to that fact because an improved mental health helps build mental fortitude and it helps you make more sound decisions. Caring for your mental health helps you to manage stress. It increases your energy levels and lowers the risk of illness. This therefore helps improve the overall quality of life. So we can look more closely at how mental health affects our physical health. Mental health issues often they manifest as physical symptoms. Some of these symptoms include fatigue, lack of energy, insomnia, back and neck pain. The Canadian Mental Health Association noted that patients with poor mental health are more likely to develop chronic physical conditions than those with a good mental state. Patients with a good mental state will also make better health choices, decreasing their likelihood of being physically unwell. This goes to show that maintaining good mental health can have a protective effect on our overall health. Chronic stress can cause fatigue, heart attacks, migraines, and even trigger what we call a mental breakdown. A study found that positive psychological well-being can reduce the risk of heart attacks and strokes. This is very important to note since cardiovascular and cerebrovascular disease have been increasing over the years. Depression has been linked to many chronic illnesses such as diabetes, asthma, cancer, cardiovascular disease, and even arthritis. Schizophrenia has been linked to a higher risk of heart and respiratory disease. Mental health conditions can also make dealing with a chronic illness more difficult. The mortality rate from cancer and heart disease is higher among people with depression or other mental conditions. People with mental health conditions are more likely to suffer from sleep disorders like insomnia or sleep apnea. Insomnia is either difficulty falling asleep or staying asleep. Apnea is more so difficulty in breathing while sleeping, so you wake up very frequently. While conditions like depression, anxiety, or bipolar disorder may lead to sleep problems themselves can also make existing mental health conditions worse. And sleep deficiency is linked to many chronic health problems like heart disease, kidney disease, high blood pressure, diabetes, stroke, and obesity. And persons with sleep deficiency are also at a higher risk of injury in adults, in teens, and in children. It's also noted that people with mental health illness are also more likely to smoke. And we know that smoking can cause issues like lung cancer. It can also cause what we call chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, or COPD, as well as cardiovascular disease. According to the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, smoking is an important risk factor for stroke, blindness, deafness, back pain, osteoporosis, and peripheral vascular disease, leading to like amputations of legs and so forth. And it's also noted that smoking in both men and women can reduce fertility. Therefore, poor mental health can lead to poor decision, which affects us physically. It may also be more difficult for people with mental health conditions to take care of their physical health. When someone has a mental health condition, it can be hard to seek care, take prescriptions regularly, or get enough exercise. This therefore puts them at a higher risk for physical illness. In these cases, it is good for them to have support, not only for their emotional needs, but to just help to keep the individual on track. It is also good to note that having physical illness can lead to mental issues. For instance, it has been noted that psoriasis, it's a dermatological condition, so it affects the skin, is associated with acute stress and depression. Persons who are diagnosed with cancer or who have had a heart attack can also have feelings of depression or anxiety. It has been found that about 1/3 of people with serious medical conditions will have symptoms of depression, such as low mood, sleep problems, and loss of interest in activities. Thyroid disease can also result in mental health issues. For example, hypothyroidism, which is low levels of the thyroid-stimulating hormone, can cause depression or mania, and hypothyroidism, which is high levels of the thyroid-stimulating hormone, is linked with dementia as well as mania. This is why it is very important for us to care for our mental health. Also, when we observe signs of mental illness in other individuals, we should try to help get them the support that they need. Because many times when people are struggling mentally, they feel very alone, and most times they are afraid to reach out to others. So I just want to leave us some tips for taking care of your mental health. So regular exercise is very important, not only to maintain physical fitness, but it also elevates mood. Exercise improves mental health by reducing anxiety, depression, and negative mood, and by improving self-esteem and cognitive function. These improvements in mood are proposed to be caused by exercise-induced increase in blood circulation to the brain and by influence of hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis. So this is basically like organs in your brain as well as the adrenals, which sits on your kidneys, as well as improvements in the physiologic reactivity to stress. So it will help improve things like our memory and our responses to stress and just our mood and motivation. Especially, it has been noted too that aerobic exercises such as jogging, swimming, cycling, walking, gardening, and even dancing have been proved to reduce anxiety and depression. Exercise is especially important in patients with schizophrenia, since these patients are already vulnerable to obesity and also because of the additional risk of weight gain from the antipsychotic medication. Exercise for at least 30 minutes, 3 to 5 times a week, have been shown to be beneficial. It's also good to have, your balanced diet. You're eating less refined sugars, less processed foods, more whole grain, more vegetables and fruits. Some have noted that the Mediterranean diet has some strong evidence of promoting better mental health and combating anxiety and depression. Also, decreasing excessive use of alcohol and quitting smoking is also good. Getting sufficient rest is also a must for our mental health. Relaxation techniques such as deep breathing, they help relieve anxiety and stress. And just promoting good, healthy practices like focusing on positive rather than negative emotions, as well as coping strategies. Seeking help when necessary is very important. Talking things out with a trusted friend or family member can help. Even more so, seeking help from a mental health professional can significantly improve mental health. So let us not be fearful to reach out for help when needed, since both our mental and physical health depend on it. So thank you for your time.
And thank you, Dr. DeTurville, for your time and for sharing with us. Two takeaways for me: the interconnectivity of mental health and physical health. And the other one is the importance of physical exercise, which I think is still underrated. The importance of physical exercise, and of course the diet. So those three, in addition to the others that you mentioned, I'm sure if we learn to incorporate that in our lifestyle, will of course set us on a right path. I have a question though. Is it a form of mental illness if somebody likes to be alone? You love your own space. Is that a form of mental illness?
Come on.
Yeah, Dr. Ditterville, are you still there?
Oh, yes, I'm still here.
Yeah, so is it a form of mental illness for someone who likes her own space, just like to be alone?
Well, some people personality prefer more alone time, but I think it's good to observe whether they're withdrawing at all times from like social gatherings and from social interactions, because it's okay for us to have our alone time. Depending on your personality, you might prefer to spend more time alone, but when you notice that the person is more secluded, more withdrawn, they don't like holding conversations, then you might have to assess.
Okay. All right. Although I didn't hear the first part of your response, I think you were getting connectivity issues here. But I think the gist of what you said, I think it was communicated to our participants. Anybody else have any question? There are some comments here. Well presented, nicely spoken. Good job, Dr. Ditterville. Does anybody else have any question as far as this last presentation is concerned, or just mental health in general, as we get ready to wrap up? Okay, I think we have, let me read that. Should it be of concern when you see persons speak to themselves? That's one question. Should it be of concern? You know, we see that all the time. People speak to themselves. My mother used to say, it's okay to speak to yourself as long as you don't answer yourself. So is it okay? You see people speaking to themselves all the time. Some people say they're just thinking aloud. What is your take on that, Dr. Ditterville? Okay, have we lost her?
I believe she's still there, Julita. However, we can also direct some of the questions to Dr. Swami, who's
Swami. Yeah.
Dr. Swami is still there too.
Okay, and I see we have two hands up. Is it Terry and Ramsey? So let us go to that question. Should it be of concern to us when we see someone speaking to him or herself? Okay, Dr. Swami, you want to come in on this one? I think Dr. Ditterville might be having internet issues. Okay.
Okay, Julita, maybe I can weigh in on this question.
Okay, so go ahead, yes.
She's asking whether it is of concern if they notice that somebody is speaking to themselves. Now, in therapy, we do encourage clients to engage in what is called positive self-talk, which is a coping mechanism. Now, this is why it's important to differentiate whether the person is simply speaking to themselves as in engaging in the positive self-talk, or simply just speaking. And you likely said that your grandmom used to say, if somebody is speaking to themselves, then they should not answer. We cannot say yes or no. What I would add to this is that we will need to note the other behavioral patterns that the person is exhibiting. For example, and I'm going to give you a joke. I remember a few years ago, I was, walking in town and I was speaking to myself and I started laughing. And I overheard somebody saying, boy, that girl has a problem, that girl mad. And it was just that I remembered something and I engaged myself and I was laughing at it. Have you ever recalled something and you just, started laughing? So it's really, sometimes people engage in speaking to themselves and it's nothing. Now, if you notice that a person is constantly speaking to themselves, accompanied by other behaviors, then it might be an indication that perhaps a further assessment needs to be done. I know in our society, we like to diagnose unofficially, and we need to, of course, discourage that. Yeah.
Okay, thank you for that. We have Ramses Lawrence. Your hand is up.
Yes, Miss Peter.
Please unmute. Yes, you may go ahead. You mute yourself again. Go ahead now.
Yes, I just wanted to make reference to the part she was talking about. That's Dr. DeToville was talking about how physical exercise can influence your mental, and it's very good for the mental. I wanted her to elaborate a bit on that because just when she was getting into explanation, I think I kind of lost the connectivity a little bit. I think she was making mention of increased blood flow to the brain and how it works immensely well for the brain and for your mental capacities. I just wanted her to elaborate just a little bit more because I had kind of lost connectivity just about then.
Okay, Dr. DeToville, are you still there? We have a question on the floor. Or perhaps Dr. Swami can weigh in on that one. Okay, this is James, apparently.
Because I was just wondering how the physical exercise will help with the mental, and she was just talking about increased blood flow to the brain.
I believe we may have lost her, but she did mention that physical activity is important to one's overall health. Now, when we look at the wellness wheel, it has several components, several dimensions. So we are looking at the spiritual dimension, physical, psychological, emotional. So when we look at physical health, Ramses, the way somebody cares for their physical health will have a direct bearing on their emotional and psychological health. So, for example, she did mention that there are individuals who experience certain medical conditions. I believe she mentioned cardiovascular conditions that can affect a person's emotional health. Now, take, for example, a person has received a poor diagnosis, or they have been told that their prognosis is very poor. That can affect a person's emotional and mental health. When an individual exercises frequently, and we also spoke about, somebody mentioned self-care, all of these put together help with a person's mental health. And this is why even in counseling, we encourage clients to make self-care a priority, ensure that they take some time to exercise, because it helps with, as Dr. DeToville would have mentioned, the blood flow. It helps with so many other organs in terms of its optimal functioning. So if you are not exercising regularly, Ramses or anybody else, I encourage you to make it a regular part of your regimen. I believe there was another question, and let me just indicate that Dr. Swami, let me apologize on his behalf. He did mention that he was on call, so he was not totally sure whether he would have gotten a call whilst at the hospital. So perhaps that might be a reason why he's not able to answer any of the questions. You were saying, Julita?
Well, saying that we have 2 other questions, if not 3. So I know that you're not a doctor, Mrs. James, but I know you'll try your best to answer in the absence of Dr. Swami, and I don't know if you've lost Dr. DeTurville. One is asking whether there is a correlation between menopause and mental health.
Mental illness. Okay.
Yes,
So to the person asking the question whether there's a correlation with menopause and mental illness, in my response to this, I would say that there is a correlation as it relates to a medical challenge and mental health. And menopause, as women experience that transition, what research has shown is that it does impact their mental health. Many times women report that the challenges that are associated with that developmental stage lends to mental health challenges. One of the common ones would be depression, anxiety, and so yes, there is a correlation, and not just menopause, but some other medical conditions. When a person is experiencing that particular challenge, it does affect one's mental health. And as I mentioned earlier on, as it relates to the wellness wheel and the various dimensions, and this is why it is important for us to take care of ourselves holistically. It is one thing to care for our physical health, but if we neglect the spiritual, for example, the psychological, the emotional, even the occupational, our occupational health, what happens at our workplaces, would recognize that it can have an impact on our mental health. Yes, and I'm seeing also, I noticed Dr. DeTurville is back on. I'm not sure if she wants to weigh in a little more on that question. If not, I'm going to on to the other question. How about constantly thinking? And how about constantly, okay, the person just repeated the question. Now, overthinking, overanalyzing can be a sign that an individual is perhaps experiencing a particular challenge. Now, in counseling, there is a term we use, cognitive distortions, and this is where an individual experiences or has irrational thoughts, what we call unhealthy patterns of thinking, what we call self-defeating thoughts. An individual may find themselves always thinking about the same thing, a preoccupation with the same thought, or it can also be referred to as an obsession. That is a sign that there might be an underlying problem, because in therapy, in the field of psychology, what we do when we treat our clients, we always look towards what is causing, what is contributing to the challenge that the person is presenting with. So yes, there are individuals who generally overthink, but it is always wise. And this is where people like myself come in, mental health practitioners, also psychiatrists, where we do an assessment, a thorough assessment, to be able to ascertain whether there is an underlying problem or something that lends to a mental health challenge. And you are welcome, Ms. Sydney.
Okay, thanks for that. This is Shaman Daniel, has placed some important information there in the chat. Please contact the National Health Helpline, 203, that's number 203, for psychological first aid when the need arises, and it's a toll-free number. So anyone who thinks that you need that information, that help, whether it be you or someone that you know, a friend, a neighbor, someone in your family, feel free to call that toll-free line, number 203. All right, Mrs. James, I think we're getting ready to wrap up, but we have one more question. We have one more giveaway, and it's another $50 fuel voucher, and that is sponsored again by Salt Gas Station in Grosley. And here's the question. Okay, let me see how observant you are. What does MHPSS stand for? MHPSS, what does that stand for? So let's monitor the chat. Mrs. James, the first person to come up with the right answer is the winner of our second $50 fuel voucher compliment, Salt Gas Station, Grosley. Okay. Huh. Oh my goodness. Are we in trouble here, Mrs. James?
I have not seen the correct answers yet.
Okay, I think I saw. Wow. Okay. All right. Let's see what we have here. At 3:55, let me see who the first person was. Rohan Francis?
Julita, I have not seen the correct answer.
Okay, at 3:55. No, we have, no, I think it was D. John first. It was D. John. It's mental health and psychological social services. Is that right, Mrs. James?
No, it's not. The first person to answer correctly is Lucia.
Listen. Okay, I think I heard it correctly. So go back to 3:55. D. John, mental health and psychosocial services. Is that right? No. So go ahead. Next one. Mrs. James, who's the next one?
Okay, just a moment. There are so many of them. What I'm going to do is to identify the correct responses, because I'm seeing some wrong responses. Yes. So the first person to provide the correct response is, I just saw it, Alexander. Oh no, you're missing a word, so I'm sorry, I have to take that back.
Mental health and psychosocial. I see it.
So it would be Sancha Melville.
Yes.
First correct response.
Yes. The others were close, but they're missing one or two words. All right. So it's mental health and psychosocial support services, and that is Sancha Melville. So of course you call the EAP for your fuel voucher. All right. Any closing remarks from you before I move the vote of thanks, Mrs. James?
Sure. I would just like to provide everyone who's logged in with some additional information as it relates to some support services. Somebody has already mentioned the suicide helpline, and this is 203. Just to provide you with the information for the National Wellness Center, it's 458-6500. There's also Turning Point, the Drug and Alcohol Rehabilitation Center, 458-2076. So if you know anybody who might benefit from rehabilitation from any type of substance, you can direct them to Turning Point. There is also the Crisis Center, 453-1521, and Community Mental Health Services. These services are available at all the wellness centers in St. Lucia. And of course, the EAP units, I'm going to provide you with the numbers again: 468-2269, 468-2260, or 285-7264, or 285-6252. You have options. If you are desirous of scheduling an appointment with the EAP or otherwise the community mental health centers, please give us a call. Remember, help is available. We want to ensure that mental health is accessible to every single person. And today you heard from the child, Malachi, from the youth, Daya, and we want to reiterate that we want to see every single person play their part as it relates to sensitization, education, and most importantly, accessing help if you are desirous of it. So thank you for logging on, and you have been quite a good audience. Over to you, Julita.
Thank you to Mrs. James for organizing this webinar, so timely, so important, so needed. And for my part, I really want to thank all our presenters and the parents of our student presenters for allowing them the time to do that. You, the participants, joining us on Zoom, on Facebook and YouTube. We want to thank you for accepting the invitation to be part of this webinar and for your questions, your comments, your suggestions, and even your encouragement to our participants. We want to thank Seoul Gas Station in Grosley for sponsoring our prizes, also the Solution Listening Council. We want to thank also the principal of the Saltibus Combined School and also of the St. Mary's College, and also Miss Crystal Lee, who is a school counselor at the St. Mary's College. So we want to thank you so much for coming out. Of course, Mrs. James will let you know when our next webinar is going to be and what the next topic is going to be. The EAP is very busy, and she will tell you that the program is well sought after, the EAP, and I really want to thank her and the team for the wonderful job that they have been doing in the public service, ensuring that our public officers are fit and remain fit, not just for the job, but to function well in society, in their family, and wherever they go. So thank you so much. And as you make your way home, I pray that you get there safely and do enjoy the rest of the week. Thank you so much.
To add to the list, Julita, thank you so much for that. I would like to say thank you to GIS, who ensured that we had live streaming. Thank you so much to the team at GIS and NTN. Thank you to the parents of Diane, Malachi, Renita Bordiomet, and Judas. Thank you so much. Thank you to all our presenters. From my heart, thank you to the MHPSS Technical Working Group. Thank you to the Sages, Alicia Sages. Thank you so much for all of your hard work. And thank you very much, Madam Moderator, Julita Peter, for such an excellent job. Do have yourself a wonderful evening.
Thank you.